The Berlin Wall's fall, the end of the Cold War. The fall of the Berlin Wall on November 9, 1989, was more than the physical demolition of a barrier. It was the end of an era, a powerful symbol of freedom, in a moment that marked the close of the Cold War. The story of how this wall came to be, and eventually fell, is a gripping saga of conflict, division, and, ultimately, unity. The roots of division. A city split into following the devastation of World War II, the city of Berlin lay in ruins, its people struggling to rebuild their lives amid the remnants of the Nazi regime. The Allied powers France, the United Kingdom, the United States, and the Soviet Union took control of Germany and divided it into 4 zones of occupation. Berlin, the country's capital, also saw itself split in two. The western part of Berlin became a beacon of democracy, freedom, and capitalism under the influence of the Western Allies, while the eastern half was dominated by the Soviet Union and came to represent the ideology of communism. In 1949, Germany itself was split into 2 separate countries, the Federal Republic of Germany, West Germany, which was supported by the Western Allies, and the German Democratic Republic, East Germany, which was a Soviet-controlled satellite state. East Germany and the Soviets began to fear that the exposure of East Berliners to the West would threaten their control. As tensions between East and West deepened, the Soviet Union and its allies became determined to secure East Berlin from Western influence, leading to the creation of the Berlin Wall. The building of the wall, a brutal symbol of oppression. On the night of August 12, 1961, the East German government, under orders from Soviet leaders, made a bold and aggressive move. East German troops and construction workers surrounded West Berlin, erecting a barbed wire fence that would soon be replaced with a heavily fortified concrete wall. Families, friends, and lovers found themselves cut off from each other overnight, and anyone who tried to cross from east to west faced imprisonment or death. The Berlin Wall soon became a complex structure, complete with guard towers, anti-vehicle trenches, electrified fencing, and even attack dogs. This fortified border wasn't just a barrier, it was a brutal reminder of the dangers of the Cold War. Soldiers were ordered to shoot anyone attempting to cross the wall, leading to countless deaths. Despite the peril, brave souls made daring, often deadly, attempts to escape East Berlin in search of freedom. Some dug tunnels beneath the wall, while others risked their lives climbing over it. These acts of defiance captured the world's attention and revealed the desperate yearning for freedom that simmered within the people of East Berlin. The Cold War heats up. The Berlin Wall quickly became the most potent symbol of the Cold War, a visible reminder of the ideological divide between the United States and its allies on one side and the Soviet Union and its bloc on the other. The wall divided families, communities, and even minds, fueling tensions between East and West. For decades, East Berliners lived under an oppressive regime that limited their freedom of speech, restricted travel, and censored information. Fear of the Stasi, East Germany's secret police, kept people in line, but resentment simmered beneath the surface. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, Western leaders like U.S. Presidents John F. Kennedy and Ronald Reagan visited West Berlin and spoke out against the wall, using it as a backdrop to denounce the harshness of Soviet control. Kennedy's famous 1963 speech included the iconic line, "Ich bin ein Berliner," signaling solidarity with the people of West Berlin. Reagan's 1987 challenge to Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall," brought worldwide attention to the mounting pressure on the Soviet Union to reform. Winds of change. The rise of Gorbachev and perestroika by the 1980s. Cracks in the Soviet Union's hold on Eastern Europe began to emerge. Mikhail Gorbachev, a reform-minded Soviet leader, rose to power in 1985 and introduced sweeping policies of glasnost, openness, and perestroika restructuring aimed at modernizing the Soviet Union and revitalizing its economy. These policies encouraged greater transparency, reduced censorship, and even allowed for some political dissent, a stark contrast to the rigid control that had marked Soviet rule. Gorbachev's reforms ignited hope across Eastern Europe, where people yearned for political freedoms and economic opportunities long denied to them. This newfound openness emboldened dissidents and reform movements in countries like Poland, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia. Gradually, communist regimes in Eastern Europe began to loosen their grip, with Poland holding partially free elections in 1989 and Hungary dismantling its border fence with Austria. For East Berliners and others living under Soviet control, the possibility of freedom grew more tangible by the day.
The moment of collapse, November 9, 1989. The situation in East Germany grew increasingly unstable as protests erupted across the country. thousands of East Germans began escaping through neighboring Hungary and Czechoslovakia, which had opened their borders. In response, East German leaders tried to contain the unrest, but found themselves overwhelmed. By November 1989, the East German government faced mounting pressure from protesters demanding greater freedoms and the right to travel to the West. On the evening of November 9th, East German government spokesman Gunter Schabowski hastily announced that travel restrictions would be lifted. Unprepared and unclear on the specifics, Schabowski told reporters that East Germans could immediately travel to the West, inadvertently sparking chaos. Thousands of East Berliners flooded the checkpoints at the wall, demanding to be let through. Overwhelmed and unsure of how to respond, the guards eventually opened the gates and people poured through in jubilant celebration. News of the wall's opening spread rapidly, and soon people on both sides of the city gathered to celebrate. Armed with hammers, chisels, and bare hands, Berliners began tearing down the wall piece by piece. This spontaneous, electrifying event became a global media spectacle, and images of Berliners tearing down the wall hugging, dancing, and crying with joy captivated the world. The Berlin Wall, once a symbol of division and oppression, was reduced to rubble, paving the way for German reunification and symbolizing the end of the Cold War. The aftermath, unity, and the end of the Cold War. The fall of the Berlin Wall marked the beginning of the end for the Soviet Union and its control over Eastern Europe. Within a year, Germany was formally reunified on October 3, 1990, officially ending the divide between East and West. This reunification wasn't just a merging of two halves of a city. It was the restoration of a nation and the healing of a people long separated by ideology. The collapse of the Berlin Wall also had profound effects on the Soviet Union itself. Inspired by the rapid changes in Eastern Europe, independence movements in Soviet republics like Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia gained momentum, ultimately leading to the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. The Cold War, a decades-long struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union that had threatened global security, came to a peaceful end. The legacy of the Berlin Wall. The history of the Berlin Wall is one of great tragedy, heroism, and the relentless pursuit of freedom. From its construction in 1961 until its eventual fall in 1989, the wall was a symbol of division and oppression, emblematic of the Cold War-era tensions between East and West. However, the city's people defied the odds and united together in a peaceful revolution, which ultimately dismantled the wall and united the city. The fall of the Berlin Wall is celebrated yearly in Germany, not only as a national holiday but as a powerful testament to people's resilience, courage, and hope. It symbolizes the end of an era of division and the triumph of unity over division, and serves as a reminder that it is possible to overcome even the most insurmountable obstacles to achieve great things. In recent years, fragments of the Berlin Wall can still be seen in various locations around the world, serving as a poignant reminder of the human spirit's undeterred determination to strive for freedom and achieve unity. The legacy of the wall remains alive in the rich cultural diversity of the city's people and in their commitment to promoting peace, tolerance, and mutual understanding, which have transformed Berlin from a city of division into a city of unity and hope.